Welcome to Columbine United Church's Memorial Day Sunday. I was just so grateful that you came to church today because I was thinking they're going to be out barbecuing, they're going to be out hiking, doing all these beautiful things, and you decided to come to church today. We are so grateful. Welcome, welcome, welcome. There's a few things that you need to know about Columbine United Church. The first thing that I want to tell you, this is a really important thing that we're going to be doing a mission project called Feed the Need. We're doing it on Sunday, June 10th. And Feed the Need is this wonderful opportunity. Maybe you've seen it before, where people are standing outside of CUC Service. We hand them lists of things that we'd like them to shop for. They shop for some items. As they go out of the CUC Service, they drop the items off into baskets. What we do is we use the food to store or to give it to our local food banks that we support. And it's a great way to kind of fill those food banks as we head into the summer months. So we're looking for volunteers. We have several different grocery stores, 2 different shifts from 11 to 1 and then from 1 to 3. And what you do is to sign up back at the welcome spot with Barb Rudolph. Barb's standing back there. And we need to start getting people to sign up. Sign up this Sunday and next Sunday, and then we'll have the Feed the Need on Sunday the 10th. Now, 5 things you need to know about Columbine United Church. Our Vacation Bible School is coming up fast. I can't believe, here it is almost June 11th through 15th. Sign up your kids, your nephews, your nieces, kids on your block, kids you want to hijack, anything you want to do. Sign your kids up. This is open to the entire community. We hope to have between 70 and 100 kids. In fact, Danny was telling me her goal is 150 kids. I love that kind of vision that Danny has. We need sporting equipment to support the Vacation Bible School. So if you can bring sporting equipment, that's the theme for the VBS is sports and different ways to interact with sports and faith. So it's a lot of fun for the kids. Any sporting goods that you donate is going to go to the Boys and Girls Clubs. And so that's a great way to do kind of a multiple support, Boys and Girls Clubs as well as Vacation Bible School. Next Sunday is the highest holy day of the church year. It's Cowboy Sunday. It's Cowboy Sunday. I want you to know, if you are new here to Columbine United Church, you need to know that this is a very important day. Forget about Christmas Eve. Forget about Easter. You know, it is all about Cowboy Sunday. So this is a way for you to break out your Western wear. Break out your cowboy shirts and your cowboy boots, your bolo ties, and, of course, your cowboy hat. And come and we're going to have a great Sunday. I'm going to tell you about my horse captain that I had, my horse captain, and that's next Sunday. Next Sunday is also for breakfast. We have a cowboy breakfast all set up for you, right, Tom? Tom's, yep, that's right, whatever a cowboy breakfast is. What? Cold beans and bad coffee, yeah. Yeah. Oh. I have to say something, but I can't. I'm in church. All right. So I can't say it. Move on to the next slide before I get in trouble. And then after service, after the Cowboy Sunday breakfast and service, we have a new membership class for Sunday, next Sunday, June 3rd. If you'd love to join the church, then sign up at the church office and join us for a good time. Very good. Now, Mitch, we have some special birthdays today. Kristen Samu had a birthday. Kristen, why don't you stand up? Stand up. Stand up. Andy Sexton had a birthday. Why don't you stand up? And, yeah, a huge round of applause. So let's sing Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Kristen and Andy. Happy birthday, dear Kristen and Andy. Happy birthday to you. Another round of applause. Very cool. Very cool. All right. You know, it is great to see you. I want to invite you all to kind of take a breath and relax. Sometimes the hardest hour of the week is the hour that it takes to kind of get you to church. You know, maybe you're running late, you're trying to get out the door, and it's kind of a rush to get to church. But here you are. And this is your hour that you've set aside for you. A chance to relax. time to open yourself up, to connect with the Spirit of God. And so whatever brought you here today, we hope that intention is fulfilled, because I believe that God travels with you throughout the week, and God is uniquely special with you here. And so it's my prayer, it's our prayer, that through some part of the worship, through the music, the scripture, the sermon, Mitch is playing the piano, that somehow, we're going to be celebrating Memorial Day here in just a few moments. Somehow, God's Spirit will touch you. Let us worship God. Let's bring in the light of Christ as we stand and sing our opening hymn.
Time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Sing that again. Here we go. Come, just as you are to worship. Read the words on the screen. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come. One day every tongue will confess you are God. One day every knee will bow. Still the greatest treasure remains for those who gladly choose you now. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come.
Very good. Let us continue in our worship as we join together in our opening prayer. My spirit is one with you, Great Spirit. You whom my people see in all of creation and in all people, show your love for us. Let's say this together. From the four directions, fill me with the four virtues of fortitude, generosity, respect, and wisdom, so that I will help my people walk in the path of understanding and peace. Amen. Please be seated. We often think about Memorial Day as another opportunity to enjoy a summer day, a picnic, a hike, a bike ride, enjoy time with family. And yes, that is a cool thing about Memorial Day. But we always like to take a moment here at Columbine to remember the true purpose behind Memorial Day and how it was started. And it was started to remember the men and women who died in action serving this country. And what we want to do is to kind of expand that a little bit and to remember all of our friends, our family members, men and women who have died as veterans and have since passed away. And what we want to do is we just want to take a moment of silence. We have a candle up here on the table. Thank you, Mitch, for lighting that. It's kind of a tribute to them. But take a moment, and as you feel ready, to call out the names of your loved ones who are veterans who have since passed away. And don't worry about kind of speaking over somebody. This is just kind of a way of raising these names up to God, to keeping these people ever present before us. So we'll take a moment to do that. I will say a prayer, and then we're going to sing America the Beautiful. America the Beautiful. So let's enter into a time of remembrance. Oh God, every day that we live in this country, it's such a gift to live and to celebrate our freedoms. And so often in the grind of life, we forget this amazing gift. The gift that has basically been given to us in so many ways by the men and women in uniform who have served this country. And so we lift these names before you so they might always be present with us, that though they have passed away and enter into your resurrection, they stay with us as a constant memory of the great gift of this country. And so we remember not only these men and women who have passed away, but the men and women who serve our country yet today, here and around the world. We're so grateful for their work and for their service, oh God. We ask that you guide, guard, and protect them. Oh God, it is a great privilege to remember them today on this Memorial Day, and we give you thanks. Amen. Let's stand and sing. Please be seated. And now we've come to this time of our worship service, a time that we call Kairos time, a time where there is beyond time, that is beyond watches or calendars. It's a time where God's presence is celebrated in so many different ways. We do this by taking communion and lighting candles. We want you to feel free to just take as much time as you want. We're in no hurry. You can stay seated in your chair, or you can come forward and take communion, the body and blood of Christ. Go to the candle tables, light a candle, say a prayer for yourself or someone you love. Tom and I will be up here as well, but if you would like a special prayer with either one of us, you can do that as well. Let's participate in this time of worship. We always like to take a moment and welcome all the virtual members here of Columbine United Church. Those of you who are live streaming us on Facebook, it's good to have you as well. Those of you who are going to be watching us on YouTube later this week, it's great to have you with us. And we always like to say, welcoming our men and women in uniform. Several of you who like to check in back with the church to see what's going on. It is great to have you. Let's give all these people a warm welcome. So today we're going to begin a new sermon series. I want us to think about the problems and the obstacles that we face in life. You know, something that's been a challenge for me over the past 6 months, I've been dealing with a lot of challenges here at church. Ever since Justin left, it's presented a whole lot of challenges that I'm trying to work my way through. There's been some personal challenges that I've had to face in my own personal life with my family. And every time that I run up against one of these obstacles, I kind of wonder, okay, so now what I'm going to do? How am I going to get myself over this obstacle? What is this obstacle trying to teach me? And then in addition to that, what I've learned is that through some of the conversations I've had with many of you, that you also are facing your own personal obstacles. It might be an obstacle at work, it might be a professional obstacle, a personal obstacle, a health obstacle, something has got in your way that has been a challenge for you, that you're also feeling stymied and not sure how to go forward in life. So what I've decided to do is to take this month, last Sunday here in May and then through the month of June, to try to look at what does our faith teach us about the obstacles in our life? What do the scriptures teach us about the obstacles of our life? And what we're going to do is look at every Sunday something different. And what's going to be a lot of fun is you're going to hear from all the different voices here at Columbine who speak to us. Tom Rayling is going to preach today. I'm going to do Cowboy Sunday next Sunday. Our own Matt Matson is going to be preaching for us the Sunday after that. Very excited to hear Matt preach. I'll pick up on Father's Day. And then Jane Ritterson will be preaching the last Sunday of the month. So it's great to have Tom here today to kick off this sermon series. So this is the story that Tom is going to be reading. This is a story of Abraham sacrificing Isaac. And kind of the lead up to this is that God told Abraham to go to the place where there was going to be a sacrifice. And he's not quite sure what's going to happen. He's been told to sacrifice Isaac. And this is a crazy thing that has happened because Isaac is the apple of his eye. And for God to ask him to sacrifice Isaac just seems completely out of character. So listen for God's word as it comes to us today. They, Abraham and Isaac, arrived at the place to which God had directed him. Abraham built an altar. He laid out the wood. Then he tied up Isaac and laid him on the wood. Abraham reached out and took the knife to kill his son. Just then an angel of God called to him out of heaven, "Abraham, Abraham!" "Yes," said Abraham, "I'm listening." The angel said, "Don't lay a hand on that boy. Don't touch him. Now I know how fearlessly you fear God. You didn't hesitate to place your son, your dear son, on the altar for me." Oh, Tom, you're there. Okay, perfect. Abraham looked up. He saw a ram caught by its horns in the thicket. Abraham took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. Abraham named that place of God Yireh. God sees to it. That's where we get the saying, on the mountain of God, God sees to it. May God bless these words as Tom seeks to apply them to our lives.
Thank you, Steve. The title for today's sermon is, What Did You Expect? Once there was a small village that was built along the river down below the dam. Life was good until one spring when it really started raining like crazy. As the waters kept building up, the dam started to weaken and began to seep through. The waters in the river began to rise, and the people called for an evacuation. So everybody went to evacuate, except for one man. He decided he was not going to obey the evacuation order. So as the water began rising, he was standing on his porch, and I went the wrong direction, and a truck came by and said, "Get in, we'll take you to safety." The man says, "No, I've been a devout person all of my life. I trust God. I know that God will save me." The water continued to rise. The man climbed up to his second floor, and a boat came by, and they said, "Get in, we'll take you to safety." The man said, "No, I'm a devout man. I believe in God. I know that God will take care of me." With this, the water still continued to rise. He climbed up on his roof. A helicopter comes by and said, "Grab hold of the ladder and we'll take you to safety." And he said, "No, thanks. I'm a devout person. I believe in God. I've served God all my life. I know God will take care of me." With that, the dam broke, the house was washed away, and the man drowned. He went to heaven, and he wasn't particularly happy with God. And he said, "What are you thinking?" He says, "Here I am. I've done everything you've asked me to do. I've served you all my life. How could you let this happen to me? I don't understand." God says, "Well, I don't understand either." God said, "I sent a truck and a boat and a helicopter. What were you expecting?" Sometimes we have crazy expectations, and we get so fixed on them that we don't know how to break out of being focused on those expectations. And they become a roadblock in our path of life. Much like a rock in the road, we begin to look at the rock and say, "Okay, how am I going to move this rock? What am I going to do with this rock?" And pretty soon we're focused totally on the rock. We don't see much else. We don't see life itself. All we see is the rock. And as we focus on the rock, the problem grows bigger. And pretty soon, if we don't do something about it, it becomes insurmountable. And we begin to wonder, how are we ever going to get around this rock? What will we do? Sometimes it's like tunnel vision, and you can't see anything except the path that is straight before you, when if we could just look out to the side, God's world is so big, so full of possibilities, that we need to see those and recognize those as well. The story of Abraham is an interesting story. Abraham's the father of the Hebrew faith, the Jewish faith. At the beginning, God calls Abraham and says, "I will make of you a great nation." Now that sounds like Abraham and Sarah are going to have a whole bunch of kids to carry on the tradition. But it didn't happen. There were no children until late in life. Late in life, Sarah says to Abraham, "I think you should take a concubine." And so Abraham and Hagar have a son, Ishmael. And a few years later, God says, "You know, Abraham, that's not what I had in mind." And God sends an angel to talk to Abraham and says, "You're going to have a baby with Sarah." This seemed highly improbable. Abraham at this point is about 100 years old, and Sarah's no spring chicken. And Abraham's saying, "I don't think you understand. Some of these things don't work the way they used to." Sarah's standing off to the side of the tent, and she hears the conversation, and she's just laughing, saying, "Don't be absurd." They had a baby. And they named the baby Isaac, and Isaac became their pride and joy. Their life was just filled with joy. They finally had their son. All was good. Until one day, the scripture says, God decided to test Abraham. And God said to Abraham, "Abraham," he said, "Yes, I'm listening." He said, "I want you to take your son Isaac and go up to a mountain that I will show you, and I want you to sacrifice your son as a burnt offering." Abraham must have been very distraught about that. I doubt he even had the courage to tell Sarah what he was going to do. But he gathered two of his servants and a donkey, loaded the donkey up with some wood, and grabs Isaac, and they head out on this journey. And Isaac says, "Where are we going?" And Abraham says, "We're going to make an offering to God." And Isaac is young, full of life. Remember, Abraham at this point is probably about 105. And Isaac says, "Hey, Dad, I think you forgot something." Abraham's going, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you've got the wood, you can make the fire, but you forgot the animal that we're going to sacrifice." Abraham said, don't worry about it. God will provide." And so they journey on. They come to the foot of the mountain. They leave the servants and the donkey. He has Isaac carry the wood. They go up the mountain. They build an altar. They put the wood on the altar. And then he does the unthinkable. He ties up his son Isaac, lays him on the altar. And as he's about ready to sacrifice his son, an angel goes, "Abraham, stop! What are you doing? Are you crazy?" And Abraham stops. And the angel says, "You're out of your mind. There's a ram over there in the bushes. Why don't you use that?" And so he does. Isaac's spared. And the story and the history goes on. Now, it's a strange thing because of a couple things. One, in that time, we know that the Hebrew people were not making human sacrifices. They were doing animal sacrifices, but they weren't doing human sacrifices. So this is totally out of character. Two, Scripture doesn't say this, but my suspicion is that ram was stuck in the bushes the whole time. And Abraham wasn't paying any attention. He had a one-track mind, tunnel vision, blind faith, going only in one direction, not even thinking of other possibilities. And so maybe Abraham learned something there. And I wonder if maybe God's test of Abraham wasn't whether or not he would really sacrifice his son, but was he willing to listen? Now, I also think Abraham was 105 at least, and maybe his hearing wasn't quite so good. What if God said to Abraham, "I want you to take Isaac and the two of you go up and make a burnt offering"? We don't know. I can only guess. But it seems to me that it's clear that Abraham was just going in one direction, not really looking at the options, looking at the possibilities, knowing that God works in so many different ways. It's easy to do, and I've done it myself. Sometimes. My first church was in Jewell, Iowa, north central Iowa, a church of about 350 members, and I was the sole pastor. I was there about 5 years and going, I think it's time to change. And I decided that I really wanted to go into associate ministry. And so I was looking for an opportunity to do that. And I said, "God, open up some possibilities. I'll go anywhere. I just don't want to go out east." And as far as I was concerned, Ohio was too far east. So I went to Chappaqua, New York. Strange story how it all came about, but nonetheless, good things happened. That's where I met and married Betsy. It was a good experience. It was a learning experience, a growing experience. And it came time to move on again. And I think I'd like to try another associate position. I didn't expect to go back to Iowa because Iowa was mostly small churches. Went to Waterloo, Iowa. And so we were there for 6 years, and I was looking at possibilities. I really felt called and wanted to go into conference ministry. And those jobs are few and far between sometimes. And so I was looking for possibilities. I was talking with the Iowa conference minister and had my eyes on a new position that they were going to develop. He said, "You're perfect for it. You're a shoo-in." He said, "This is where we can go." A few months into the process, he calls me and he says, "I got some bad news." He said, "The funding has dried up and we can't create this new position." So I continued to look. I had a possibility in Missouri, was offered a job. And when we looked at it, said, this just isn't right. It doesn't feel right. I don't feel this is where I'm called. So I said, "God, don't know what you got in mind. I'll go anywhere you want, but I'd really prefer not to go too far south. Wrong thing to say. We went to Daytona Beach, Florida, and I served as the associate conference minister there. I was there for about 10 years and going, I think maybe I'm ready and would like to be a conference minister instead of the associate. I must have interviewed for about 6 different positions, almost every time finished second place. And I'm going, God, what's going on? And I get a call from a national staff person, and he says, hey, Railing, he says, I'm working on a job description in Colorado that's got your name on it. I'm going, really? What you got? And he says, they're creating a new position for an associate conference minister for new church development. And there's no one in the UCC who has more experience in that than you do. I think you're perfect for it. They would love to have you. I said, take 2 aspirin and don't call me in the morning. I said, thanks, but no thanks. New church starts are a lot of fun. They're high risk, low probability. And I'm going, yeah, that doesn't sound very secure to me. I don't think that's where I want to go. About 2 weeks later, I called him back and I said, I'm waking up every night in the middle of the night thinking about this job in Colorado. What do we need to do? And so we came to Denver. And for about 3 years, I served as the associate for New Church Starts. And then through a strange twist and turn, I was moved into the position of conference minister. It was like once I stopped looking for it, all of a sudden the possibility opened up. You never know how God's going to work in those situations. My favorite motivational speaker, outside of Matt, is Dennis Waitley. And in one of his quotes is that life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. He said, you don't necessarily get what you want in life, but in the long run, you usually get what you expect. You may not know what you want, but somehow inside, we live our lives, we position ourselves, and we open ourselves up to possibilities in a particular direction. Now, we have some choices to make on that. We all know the people who are bright, optimistic, cheerful, no matter what happens, it's a good day, the sun's always shining, only good things happen in their lives. Some of these people we think exist on Facebook, because on Facebook you only see the good things happening in their lives. No one ever posts, I've had a rotten, miserable day and my life is just in the dumps. But some people are just always ready to see the bright, positive things, and very often it's the good things that happen to them, or the things that happen to them, they help make good. You never know where it's going to go. Other people are the black clouds of life, and they're always waiting for lightning to strike. No matter what happens, they know it's going to happen to them. If it's bad, it's coming their way. If they're not living in a crisis, they're looking for a crisis to live in. Just bad things are happening. Our attitude helps position the way we live our lives and helps us to determine what direction we want to go, how we're going to see the things that happen to us in our lives. Sometimes there's things right in front of our nose that we can't see. We don't know exactly what to do with them. They're just kind of there. One of my favorite movies is Patch Adams. And in this scene from Patch Adams, there's a brilliant doctor who is now a patient at a mental hospital. And everybody who comes in, this doctor's going up to them going, how many fingers do you see? And everybody says, 4. He says, oh, no. You're not seeing it. So try this with me. Put your hand out in front of your face about like this, okay? How many fingers are you seeing? 4. Okay, now, keep your fingers out there. I want you to focus on me and bring your fingers closer to your face. How many fingers are you seeing now? 8. 8. 8. New possibilities. Sometimes we shouldn't trust only what we see, but we need to open up our minds to the possibilities that reach beyond where we are and allow for God to work in new, mysterious ways, to let the Spirit flow in our lives. There's some things that we can do to help that along. When we're seeing that obstacle in the road, that problem, we need to step back and stop focusing on the rock because it's only going to get bigger. But step back, keep calm. Panic only feeds fear. Fear doesn't solve anything. Breathe. As we do at the beginning of the service, just take a breath. Calm your heart. Calm your body. Just bring down the level of anxiety. Open up to the possibilities. Meditation is a good way to go. This is a way of stilling our minds and engaging the Spirit of God, letting God speak to us. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just sleep on it. You hear that all the time. I experienced it this week as I was working on this sermon. I came to Friday evening and I'm just going crazy. It feels like the pieces are there. It doesn't feel like it's coming together. I don't know what to do with it. Set it aside, went to bed, slept on it, got up early Saturday morning, and it all looked different. I don't know why. It was the same pieces. A couple other pieces came together. It just looked right. It just looked good. It felt much better. One of the real gifts that God gives us for problem solving, for getting beyond the obstacles, is our community. We have family, we have spouses, we have friends. It's good to use those friends to help solve problems, to help move beyond the obstacles. Very often it's our friends who can see the other alternatives when all we're seeing is the sacrifice of our son. They're the ones who can help us see other possibilities. Maybe they're the ones who can see the truck or the boat or the helicopter or the ram in the bushes. God gives us a whole community of people, doctors, counselors, pastors, neighbors. They're there for a reason because they help us through tough times. They help support us. They help us be who we are. Always too important to approach things with a trust and a faith. Trust that everything will be all right in the end. And have faith that if it's not the end. Friends, sometimes the best thing we can do is simply be present in the moment, be aware of our surroundings, be true to ourselves of who we are, and know that what we have is a gift from God. All the resources we need are there. All the possibilities are open to us. If we will see the beauty of God's creation, the miracles of all the possibilities that God lays out before us, I know that there have got to be ways that we can deal with the obstacles that are presented to us in our lives. God be with you and bless you on your journey in this life.
Let's just bow our heads and take a moment and soak on that message, and then I'll say a prayer. Oh God, there are many obstacles that we face in our life. Those things that are rocks in our road that stops us on our journey in the direction that we want us to go. And we do have a tunnel vision, oh God. We do become focused on just that. And what we hear today from Tom is the need to see other possibilities. And so, God, we ask that you awaken our hearts, awaken our minds. Fill us with your Son's Spirit so that we might see all the possibilities that are before us. Possibilities in work, possibilities at home, possibilities in our community. Help us to listen, oh God, to the many people, the voices that you raise up around us to help us and empower us. Oh God, you are a good God, you are a gracious God, you are a mighty God. You desire nothing more than our lives be filled with happiness, joy, and meaning. So help us, oh God, to grab a hold of that vision. You sent your Son to teach us about you, to point you to that vision, so that we might be open to all the different ways that you speak to us. And so, oh God, yet again on this Sunday, we celebrate the joy of life and the many possibilities. We pray that you help us to see all the great and glorious things that you have in store for us. And help us to reach out with strength and hope to grab a hold of this great possibility. Oh God, you sent your Son Jesus, and he lived and he taught among us. And the disciples watched his teaching, and they asked him how to pray. And in response, he gave them this very simple, short prayer, a prayer that people of faith have been praying for the past 2,000 years. And so, oh God, we pray this together yet today, asking that your Son's Spirit will flow through us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Once again, we want to say welcome to Columbine United Church. It's so good to have you here. We'd like to invite those of you who are seated along the center aisle to take the Ritual of Friendship pads. Take those pads and pass them down the aisle. Please note who is seated with you in the aisle, so you might try greeting one another by name following the service. If you are, or as the pads go by, take out a coaster if you give electronically to Columbine, and put that in the offering plate as a way of reminding yourself that you do give faithfully to the church. If you're a newcomer to Columbine, we want to give a special welcome to you, and we ask that you take the red Ritual of Friendship pad, pass those down the aisle. Please give us your email address. We won't hound you or bother you, but we do want to say hello to you and welcome you to Columbine, and share with you all the different opportunities that you have. And if you are a newcomer, we have special bags out there in the narthex that we invite you to pick up. They have all different kind of information about the church and how we want to reach out to you and welcome you into our faith community. If you've got a prayer request, there's a card there in the pad that you can fill out as well, and we take your prayer requests very seriously. We pray for you during our staff meetings and during the week. If you've got a question about Columbine, you can fill that out as well. There are many different ways to give here during this time. After service, you can slide a credit card with Josie back at the welcome spot. The offering plates are coming by. And then especially for those of you who are watching us virtually, we want you to think about giving via text. You can text to give at 73256. Follow the prompts to CUC. Let us stand and sing our thanksgiving to God.